Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shannon de Rehove. Welcome to today's webinar on leveraging automation in transport and logistics, hosted on behalf of DMG Events Transport Evolution Africa. The transport and logistics field has shifted due to new technologies, specifically around automation being used to enhance efficiency, minimize waste, remove bottlenecks, and reducing manual errors. Join our expert panel as they explore how automation is changing the face of the transport and logistics industry. Before we start, though, please note that the chat and the Q&A are available to you. Please post your questions in the Q&A and your comments in the chat. Both the Q&A and the chat are at the bottom of your screen. Please be aware that we are recording this webinar and will send the recording to you when it's available. We are also streaming the webinar live on YouTube and we'll share the link in the chat once it's available. So let's get started. Today's moderator is Stan Whiting, a business development specialist at Moore Johannesburg. Stan has a 35-year business track record of profitable small and medium-sized business ownership, and he's an experienced company director. He has a comprehensive understanding of business conditions in South Africa and Africa. He will facilitate the discussion with today's panel, which consists of Lieutenant Colonel Atul Holkar, Director for Supply Chain and Commercial Director for Africa at PepsiCo Varun Beverages; Nikita Reddy, a Logistics Executive at ESL Freight; Werner Plessis, the MD of HybridFuzion; Edwin Briggeman, Director at Briggeman International; Andy Mashaile, a Security Strategist, Expo member of ICSIC, a retired Interpol ambassador, and a cybersecurity advisor; and finally, William Butler, the CEO of Tontrac. I'll hand over now to moderator Stan Whiting to start the discussion. Over to you, Stan.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Welcome, everyone, both audience and panelists, to the second Transport Evolution Africa and Engineering News webinar, where we delve into how technology is changing the transport and logistics sector. Today's webinar is a precursor to the 12th edition of the Transport Evolution Africa Forum and Expo, which will take place from the 17th to the 19th of June at the Gallagher Convention Center. The Forum and Expo will also bring critical discussions to life across port, road, rail, and air, helping unlock transport and logistics potential and drive economic growth within Africa. To find out more about the event and register, visit transportevolution.com. Welcome then to the panelists today, and I look forward to some robust discussion on the topics at hand. And I think we're going to get straight into it and talk about what is this technology we're looking to embrace and how to go forward with that. So Werner, William, let me ask you the first question there. Which emerging technology is set to create the next shift within the industry? And which technology should we be keeping an eye on?
Thank you, Stan. And thank you, everybody. Stan, I think in terms of the way the technology landscape is changing, it's changing very rapidly, especially in the last 18-24 months. The kind of introduction of artificial intelligence into the mainstream of the public awareness and business. But I think, from a business point of view, and particularly the transport industry, there's the obvious technologies, emerging technologies like self-driving vehicles, right? But perhaps in the South African context, that might be a way off, because of infrastructure challenges, and also the socio-economic impact of self-driving vehicles. But there are other technologies, automation technologies, that are already operating successfully in our economy. Weighbridge automation is one of them. Site access control is another. And then there's the low-hanging fruit that I would suggest would be the introduction of tools like AI agents into for example, a control room environment. Now, an AI agent is an entity. It's a self-directing entity. It can make decisions. It can take actions within your technology sphere. When you pair something like an AI agent in a control room with an experienced operator, it becomes a force multiplier, because this AI agent is now monitoring the flow of data, whether it's vehicles or products and situations, and it's analyzing and making decisions much, much faster than the human operator can. And you pair this with the operator, it's able to give the operator direction, it's able to advise the operator or make suggestions as to what the right course of action is. So there's a particular area where I think there's going to be shifts in the management of the supply chain environment in South Africa.
Thanks so much, William. And I think just following through on that AI, ML type discussion, Atul, can I ask you, how are advanced technologies like AI and ML going to change the transport and logistics industry, in your opinion? Atul? William, maybe I'll ask you for that one. How advanced technologies like... Oh, you're back. Thanks, Atul. Thank you.
Okay. So, Stan, I would take advantage of my previous speaker and also the topic of transport evolution. And let me take some data from one of the renowned, writer called Yuval Harari, who wrote a book called Sapiens, and he gives us the entire impact of how things have changed. Just about in a very brief, 14 billion years ago, Big Bang came into being. 4 billion years ago, Earth came into being. 70,000 years back, the Homo sapiens started moving out of our land in South Africa. 12,000 years back, it was agricultural revolution. 500 years back, it was scientific revolution. Digital came into being 50 years back. Internet around 30 years back. 25 years back, the first mobile. AI, cloud, and big data came 10 years back. It's just about 2 to 3 years back when MI and ML has come into being. And what is it doing? When I order, a product in Takealot, I immediately go back and start tracking my product. Imagine, you have just ordered and you want to see where it is. Where I see the Uber Eats, I also look into when is that, delivery guy has started. And these advanced technologies are moving much faster than we humans can anticipate. And when we're looking into South Africa per se, I don't look it into an isolation, because whatever happening in the world will impact us. We are a global village now. I'll just give you some data. Food delivery market in India is currently $54 billion worth. And they do 3.15 million per delivery per day. These are just the two top companies. And the expected growth at 27% CAGR, it is going to be $537 billion shortly. So, what is, driving all this is these great technologies called AI and ML, and where the route optimization, the fleet management, predictive analytics of demand and maintenance. By any chance, if you just go and select a particular product in Amazon, throughout the day, every time you click Amazon or Facebook, you will find those products. That is predictive analytics. They tell you in advance. Warehouse automation, improved supply chain visibility. Where is my product? Where is my truck? What is the status? And everything boils down to one particular aspect, that is customer experience. Right now, every company in every business in every industry looks forward to one aspect, that is customer experience, which offers real-time shipment updates, predictive delivery time, and resolves issues quickly. Then what is there for the industry? It is all about cost optimization, dynamic pricing, reducing idle time, empty backhauls, optimizing loading capacity, and then also tracking fraud detection and compliance. You have to put all this together to make it into a modern business environment. And that is how these AI and ML, which is evolving so fast, and that by the time a second year student moves into third year in engineering college, the first year knowledge is outdated. That is the speed we are looking at.
Atul, thank you. That's a nice explanation on that base. We hear from the fellas the what, and we also hear that there's not every company in South Africa and definitely on the continent that could afford maybe to get into the space. So I'm going to ask Edwin to help us a little and talk about the barriers of embracing this type of technology and putting it into B. Please, Edwin, thanks.
Well, thank you, Stan. Yeah, I would say the first barrier for introducing new technology, that's us, the humans. We normally quite conservative. Not sure if it's only in the logistics sector, but I certainly know from the port environment, because I'm coming from the port environment more than anything else, is that people tend to be more conservative. So new technology, it's all going so fast. Why should we? Don't want to change. I mean, most human beings, they don't want to change. They like change, but they don't want to change themselves. And I think that's where it starts. If you want to embrace new technology, you have to get that mindset right. That new technology is there to assist, to help you out, and not to supersede you, or it's going beyond you. It should be your help. It should be your aid more than anything else. But the other way, I guess also, and you see that in the port, you buy a crane, a ship-to-shore crane for container handling, and you buy that with the aim to use it for 20, 25 years. So it's an in-depth investment. So you're not just buying something like a smartphone, and in 3 years' time your contract is finished, you're going to buy a new one, or you get a new one with your contract. But you buy something for a long period of time. So you see a lot of ports around the world that are using equipment that has got like a 20-year-old technology on it, and they're still using that same machine. So the mindset, I guess it all comes down to the mindset that has to change. But I understand as well, if it's like equipment that expensive, you don't just replace that every 3 years like you do your smartphone. So and luckily, a lot of engineering companies, a lot of companies that they know how to add on to the system. It's like what William was sharing about weighbridge automation. You add it to your weighbridge. It's AI agents into your control room. You add them to your system. So you keep evolving. You don't have to replace the whole equipment, but you upgrade it. And I think that's where the mindset has to go. So even if you buy a machine that is now 20 years old, it's not past its lifetime. You just need to upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. It's a mindset first and probably funding second. Once we hear from Atul also, it's all about the client experience, right? We're all in business, and the only way we stay in business is to keep the client happy. But in this particular instance, when we move into technology, one of the things that we have to protect our client from are any type of cyber security threats. We're fortunate today to have Andy Mashaile with us. He is a security and cyber advisor. Andy, won't you take us through? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and so that we can just get a flow to this. Tell us, what are the security concerns when adopting these technologies? What should we be looking out for as business? We want to improve our service levels. We believe technology is the way to go. What should we be looking out for?
One of those things that we need to look at, Stan, would be employee training. In all forms of security, as long as you have the human element, you have a gap that can compromise your systems. And one of those things would be untrained employees and phishing attacks that open the back door to the ransomware attacks and a whole lot of interruption of the supply chain. One of those things that we need to do in safeguarding your automated systems, transport and logistics system, would be to look at your IoT vulnerabilities, your warehouse where you keep your cameras, where you keep your most important stuff. We need to know that we need to ensure that you have a number of safeguard mechanisms. One of them would be to ensure that there is no easy access into those premises. There's also no easy access into your automated tracking. I'm here referring to your hackers gaining access into the operating systems and on the one hand, rerouting. We have seen on a number of occasions where truck owners did not know where the trucks were, deviations and that kind of stuff. So you would need to put in a whole host of systems that would ensure, one, that there is no data breach, two, that the employees understand the significance of security in this system, that they don't click on the links and they don't visit spaces where they are not supposed to visit. Thirdly, it is key and crucial that industry in this space, when you leverage automation, you must ensure that cyber security is not put in the back burner. We have seen in the last 3 years that the hacks, including the big hack of Myers, do you remember, that led to the loss of $300 million US. It's because companies put cyber security in the back burner. So those three aspects, to me, and advising you, Stan, as an owner of a logistics and transportation company who is taking on automation, I would ask you to look at and underline all what I've said with your understanding of artificial intelligence, how to mitigate the threat posed by artificial intelligence, and use artificial intelligence system to the defense of your company. We know that criminals, now I can tell you, they employ these young people who are experts in artificial intelligence. We just saw Elon Musk and his Doge department employing a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old AI expert. What is that for? It is to ensure that your systems are not easily breached, because you are in an area, in an era where criminals, as in the space that I have been in the last 20 years, criminals would get the best brains to join transnational organized crime syndicates that deals, amongst others, with data theft, data breaching, and privacy violation, as well as just messing up for the sake of messing up. So it is critical and crucial that in leveraging automation, we look at those three critical aspects that I want to restrain myself to, out of respect for time.
Thank you. Thanks so much, and I appreciate that. This is a topic that we could actually have a separate workshop on. I've no doubt about that. Just quickly though, how would you recommend companies mitigate this risk? How could they protect themselves in a very quick fashion? What is the right way to go about making sure that they have met their own governance regulations within their business? Just quickly.
You would need to do penetration testing from time to time, get white hackers to come in and ensure that your systems are up to scratch. That's the number one threat hunting tool that you would need to look at. Number two, threat hunting makes it easier for us to be able to be proactive. Number three, companies would need to invest, once again, Stan, to invest in cybersecurity so that you don't have disruptions. In the event where there's been a disruption, you would need to get resilience strategies, recovery strategies in place. One, because you have backup. Two, because you have the backup of the backup somewhere else, so that you don't lose critical information. I'd rather have 1,000 backups to make sure that the current system that I'm operating, should it fail, I know where to go. My phone was stolen. I was robbed of my phone some time back, Stan. I managed to get back the information and sensitive information on the phone because of the backup on the cloud and the backup on external hard drives.
Thank you so much, Andy. Appreciate your inputs today. It's really insightful, and yeah, as a member of multiple boards, I can tell you that it's a high priority level on most boards under the governance sector now. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to move now to Werner, and we're going to look at a little bit about what the implementation effect is on the base. We know what we're looking to put in. We know what to look out for when we put it in. And now let's talk a little bit about implementation. So Werner, the question would be, what are the main barriers of implementing autonomous systems, new technologies, please? Thanks, Werner.
Thank you, Stan, and good afternoon to all attendees. I think there's a lot of barriers, cost and project barriers and implementation risks and alignment risks to your business processes. But one I see as maybe being the predominant one is a lack of clear internal partnership for adopting these autonomous systems, because ultimately what you are doing is you are putting people's livelihoods at risk by implementing autonomous systems. So I think this disconnect between what is the strategic motivation around doing this change should never be around reducing staff complement. It should always take the social responsibility aspect into consideration as well, because ultimately what happens is, and there will be talks later on around the resistance to adopting these technologies, but the moment you don't make your workforce part of the solution, part of the design, part of the journey towards your ultimate implementation, what you sit with is a trust relationship being broken. And the moment that gets broken, you will inevitably have that resistance to the change, and we'll talk about the resistance later. So critical to get that relationship right and let the workforce be clear on why we're doing this, how would it benefit them? Because what we've seen through the evolution of technology does not necessarily take away jobs. It changed the skills profile. We still need humans in this. AI and all of that is great, but AI lack the touch that the human has. So in my mind, it's more how can you shift the skill set of your organization to become competent in your new technology while still maintaining that social responsibility. So I think that's a big one, the lack of partnership internally. And then also tech maturity, I think is a big aspect, is how I always say is you need to fix your business process first before you implement a new technology. Technology is not the solution. Technology enables you to break free from the constraints of your capabilities. And it is very important that whilst you invest in new technology, invest in the maturity and the fluidity or fluency of your organization to talk that new technology. So tech maturity and your capability to run that technology effectively, I think is very critical. That's the two big ones. There's obviously a lot more, but those two elements, I think if you get that right, the rest of the items or risk-based items is easy to control and manage within the implementation and deployment processes. Thanks.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to keep you on here and say, okay, we understand the big picture. Let's, for the audience sake, get a little bit real for a bit and say, how would we seamlessly integrate, for instance, a warehouse management system or a transport management system into exiting systems?
Yeah,
and I know that could be a whole day's discussion, but a smart guy like you will get us summarized quickly, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying less integration is good integration. And by that, I'm not saying that integration is a bad thing. I think integration is good. It automates processes. It gives a lot of data-driven clarity, etc. But integration on its own is a difficult topic, starting to integrate different systems. And I want to use the lens of a warehouse management system, for instance. The view should always be internal looking when you decide on a specific piece of technology to implement it. What I mean by that is first, or your priority should be first understand your ERP system that you are running clearly, because ultimately a WMS and a TMS is only an enhancement of technology to execute transactions, receive stock, issue stock, do stock counting, track trucks, all of that. But the moment, and let's say a company runs a SAP interface, the prerogative should always be, can I use SAP technology to fill that gap, like a SAP extended warehouse management deployment or a SAP transportation management deployment, before looking outwards. And that's not to say that other WMSs is not good or fulfill the process, but the moment you take one system and you try to integrate it with another one, you get a lot of complexity. So to streamline the process, make it as easy as possible, and having it as robust and transparent after implementation. Ask yourself the question, why can my current technology or ERP technology that I'm using not fit that gap that I have? Because the moment you do a like-for-like integration, you don't sit with integration issues. But let's say you do now run a SAP system, but you use a third-party WMS or TMS system. It's always important to do the fit gap analysis early and have multi-stakeholder or multi-subject matter expertise involved in that decision-making process to ask questions around how does the integration protocols look? Are they compatible with one another? How would we execute this integration? And also having a very clear architecture around data and business processes flowing between these systems. Because ultimately, what happens is if this integration is not robust enough, it costs you a lot of money to maintain it, to upgrade it, enhance it, and it results in imbalances or inconsistencies between the systems you are integrating with. So I think also prioritize an integration dashboard to pick up stuck queues as quickly as possible. I think that is my biggest priority areas to make that process as seamless and value-driven as possible. So advice from my side, first look inwards before looking outwards, and ask yourself the question, why can our current systems not achieve that objective? Because you are setting yourself up for quite a bit of complexities and cost by integrating systems that's not necessarily talking the same language. Thank you, Stan.
Yeah, some excellent insight there. Thanks, Werner. And I'm sure that the audience appreciate that base. I always joke with my fellow board directors about technology and say my biggest fear is that a 14-year-old with a smartphone is going to put me out of business one of these days, you know. And I don't think it's, I say it in a joking way, but it's possible. Atul, maybe you can field that question for me when we start looking at the business risks. We know what technology we want. We kind of get a feel of where the barriers are. We know what to look out for from a security perspective. And we have an idea now of how to implement these things. But when we look at business risk now and we say, okay, what how can we keep up with this rapid rate of technology change? You're going to spend millions of rands putting in a system only to find out in 6 months' time that your system is archaic and out of date. Give us some of your insights on that space, please. You're on mute, Atul. Atul, you're on mute.
Yes. So when you look into the entire setup of technology, there are people, processes, and technology, and everything starts with people. So there is a continuous change that is happening, as I said at the very beginning, and the change is very fast, and you can't be changing every time when the technology changes, right? So it is very important as an individual, and I can assure you that if I take you a little bit of history, say around 100 years back, a farmer knew his son will be a farmer, right? A doctor more or less wanted to groom his son to be a doctor. But fact now is that we don't know, and especially when all these supply chain professionals who are currently associated with us, they are looking into their own career, then how do we keep evolving as fast as the technology is evolving? So you need to be curious, agile, and very strategic in nature, and adopt a culture of continuous learning. I'm talking from the personal perspective. then you need to be looking into the technology world ecosystem and stay plugged always, to understand what is happening in the world. You can't be living into your own, ecosystem and presume that everything is fine with me, and tomorrow, suddenly you realize, look at that Kodak moment. Kodak was approximately $48 billion industry. Their own scientists developed the digital cameras, and they allowed the technology to slip, and I don't know where Kodak now exists. So you have to be outwardly, looking as an organization, as people who are managing that organization, and as a professional for your own development. When you invest, it has to be a scalable and a modular technology model. You can't just say it does all. Tomorrow things in demand and the customer, the ecosystem, everything changes. We are living in a highly disruptive world. What we think is presumed that we are the world leaders in a particular technology, it is, it's in a glass house. So you need to be always looking outward and be aware. And if it is to be scaled, then it should not cost humongous amount because it's modular. Then you must always, you can, it's not necessary to reinvent the wheel. You can always partner, like Werner was saying, that you can always partner with relevant people and also look into what actually you need. One of the gaps which I've always realized between organization which needs the technology and the technologists who develop the technology is that technologists develop a technology and presume that this is what the industry requires. They do not go to the level as to what exactly is the requirement. If you look into an ERP like SAP, there are different modules, and how much do we use? It's just about 20 to 30% of that. I may not require the entire array of things that exist in that particular tool or a model. Then, when you create, you need to have a technology roadmap, and you can't say today I'm going to do something much before it is actually needed in South Africa. We can scale up over a period of time. You need to have a roadmap. You need to pilot, test, and learn. And obviously, while you're doing this, again, I go back to people. People are the biggest barrier of any change. So change management is another process. Make people technology aware and also technology friendly. And understand one thing, that I mean, we cannot run away from technology. So the barrier of understanding, I can't do this. This is not my job. I don't understand the tool, has to go away. And we as leaders have to make people slowly, and that's why when we look into supply chain, and that's one thing which I always say, we are the only function which is called a chain. There's no finance chain or HR chain or any other chain. In that chain, every person matters, and everyone needs to know what he has to do in that chain of technology. So that is one of the areas which I was thinking.
Thank you so much, Atul. Andy, I know you need to run, but there is a question for you here. I think you might be best placed to answer this for us. The question comes from Cowan Nika. He says, "Good day. How may we responsibly report suspicious activity to safeguard our industry?" In other words, you've picked something up. Where do you report it? What's the best way to make sure you get some action on that?
If you are in South Africa and you pick something suspicious, I always advise that you visit your nearest station commander. You do not necessarily need to go to what you and I spent many years ago. We used to call it the church office. They now refer to that as the customer service center. You can walk up to the customer service center and request to speak to the station commander. He's obliged by law to listen to you, because you and I are paying for their mobile phones, and some of us were their bosses previously in Gauteng when I was the chairman of the police board. You ask for that station commander to meet with you or see you, and you explain what you have seen, and should the value of what you have seen exceed 5 million rands, it would fall squarely in the ambit of General Libya, the Hawks, my good colleague of mine in Silverton. If the amount, your estimated amount of the crime that you have observed, either from hacking, either from stealing from the warehouses, or one way or the other, some form of crime committed, either by end or fraudulent transactions using your trucks or your transport or your logistics company, like it has happened from South Africa. People would drive their trucks through to the border of between South Africa and Mozambique and just turn around. That truck is empty, it's properly closed. You think that it's loaded, it's empty, and then it comes back and they go to SARS and they claim 10 million rands in taxes rebate. So when you pick something of that nature up, when it's over 5 million, generally Bear the Hawks would then be in a best position to investigate that. Should you be aware of some fraud that has been seriously committed, or some serious fraud that has been committed, either between yourself and a government official that has been working with you, who suddenly thinks that he's smarter than you, you can call upon your special investigations unit. My namesake, Andy Mutibi. I could be sharing their numbers here, but I would rather leave them with the back room so that that gentleman, Cowan, who has seen something or knows something, can talk to either Andy Mutibi. I can also leave the telephone numbers of General Mutiba. And my numbers can serve as a conduit stand. My number stand would be 082 346 0520. 082 346 0520. I will then be able to redirect the queries in a way and manner that will help your company get sorted out from being extorted by the transnational organized crime gangs that prey on people like yourself in the trucking industry. Believe you me, Stan, I have seen what people can do to honest people who want to eke out a living in the trucking industry, logistics industry, and the industry that we're working on now as you and I are talking in this webinar. So my telephone number is available. It would be Andy Mashaile, one word, a lowercase, Andy Mashaile @proton.me. Andy Mashaile @proton.me. I will then be in a position to do what is right, as it is still my responsibility, even though I am retired. It is my responsibility that to ensure that crime in our country is reduced. Whether people like me or they don't, I really am not in a beauty contest. I have a responsibility to secure the future of the little ones who are a generation and generations after us.
Thanks so much, Andy. And I think just for the audience, Andy will be dropping off. So let me thank you for your time today. Thanks for the insights. Thanks for the offer to call you. Those details, by the way, for the audience will be available from the organizers, and you can get hold of Andy if there's anything further. Thanks for your time today, Andy. Thank you so much.
Let me spell Andy, A-N-D-Y. It's small, it's lowercase A-N-D-Y. My surname is M-A-S-H-A-I-L-E, Andy Mashaile. This is for David, I just saw on the screen, Andy Mashaile @proton.me. Andy Mashaile, one word, @proton.me.
Okay, thanks so much again, Andy. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, then. Let's chat later, my friend.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's stay with the business risks. I'm going to ask Edwin now to answer, how can organizations manage over-reliance on technology now? We know what we've got, and then how do we, and I think some of the speakers have alluded to already, Edwin, to say, you know, we need this, but at some point in time, where's the balance between the technology, the existing systems, the personnel, etc.? Is there a threat of becoming over-reliant on the technology? Thanks, Edwin.
Yes, then I think Werner, he answered most of it already.
He did.
So look inward to your systems, and don't just go for something new because it looks trendy, it looks nice. I mean, a lot of the AI tools, everybody wants ChatGPT. We all want to go into that.
Yes.
Don't all need it. So I think it's more like looking at, and I think Werner explained it very nicely. You look at your existing system. Is the technology going to add value to what you want to do, or what you want to do in the future, or is it's going to get you into trouble? Because then you always have to realize that technology is there to support your business.
Yeah, 100%.
It's still your people and your processes that define your business, and technology should support it. So I think, how to avoid over-reliance is just keep in mind that that we are still in control. It's our business, and it's not the technology's business. If you know what I'm getting at. So you really need to keep yourself grounded.
100%.
And there's no magic thing for it. Let's keep yourself grounded. Yeah. It's actually that simple.
William, if I ask you to come in on the same question, over reliance on technology, have you got anything further to add? Thanks, Edwin.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Stan. I think we must accept that technology is inevitable. If my view is, if you're not embracing technology, your competitor is going to leave you behind, because as I said earlier on, technology can be a force multiplier. It enhances both effectiveness and efficiency. So I would say with that in context, I would say that, you know, if you're introducing new technology, always building redundancy, you know, always have a plan B. And by that, I mean, if you're relying on computers, if you're relying on machines that in turn need power and they need internet access, then make sure you've got redundancy for both power and internet access, so that the primary equipment or automation that you're using is always able to have what it needs to operate. A second point I would make is that if your technology needs to make decisions on the ground, don't put your intelligence in the cloud. You need to have, they call it edge computing. You need to have some intelligence capability on the ground where the decisions need to be made, so that if there is a disconnect between your equipment on the ground and your intelligence in the cloud, what's happening on the ground can still operate. And that's a really important thing to bear in mind when you're deploying onto vehicles, or you're deploying onto, in our instance, mines, you know, where you got spotty internet connectivity, you got environmental issues that can separate the connection between the cloud and what's happening on site. And then lastly, I think just echoing what's been said by a number of the other speakers, is to always keep people in the loop. The technology there is there to enhance your people, not to replace them. You know, so whether you are retraining and redeploying people, you know, they become higher value-added employees using this technology. I think it's important to keep people in the loop, so that there is that human element that is always able to step in when inevitably, you know, something goes wrong.
Absolutely. Atul, you had something to add to this question?
Yes.
on over-reliance? Just if you can keep it brief. Thanks.
Yeah, so basically what I was saying, you know, coming from the military background, it's man over machine, right? And it's always be, and it will always be, you know, HI over AI is important. You know, I will just give you a small example, two of them. In fact, and this one, I was working for the retail chain, and the SAP collapsed, and we were supposed to inaugurate our store next day. We were under the process of filling that store, and everything just stopped, and we had already given invitation to everyone, and people were about expecting us to open the store. Now the team was, you know, and young people obviously totally relying on technology, and we cannot delay the launch of the store, and they were wondering as to what to be done now. Should we put another things? And I said, in old days we used to make a simple paper called voucher, make all these, you know, details on a voucher, just place it into a truck, get the receiving done. Once the system is up, we shall do it. And that's how, you must have plans where things will fade. Look at the example where, you can see the Thailand, Myanmar, what they are struggling most is rest of the other thing, including cash. We carry card and we don't carry cash in our system. So there has to be some redundancy built into our mindset and ourselves. Some cash needs to be carried. We cannot 100% be dependent on technology all the time. Technologies will collapse, but human intelligence is one thing which is in your pocket.
Thanks so much for that input, Atul. Appreciate it. I want to move now on to, I think we've discussed some of the more negative perspective, if you like, on business risk and security risks, etc. Let's have a look at some of the benefits now. Nikita, let me bring you in, please. How can automation help with scaling businesses now? How do we use automation to our benefit now?
Hi, Stan, and thank you so much for the question. Firstly, thank you to Transport Evolution for such a great platform. And, Andy mentioned for our future generations, I just want to greet my daughter who's watching this webinar as well before I continue. So, great question. And I think that the misconception around automation is largely around what it doesn't do. And I think the resistance to change, as some of the panelists have spoken about earlier, really ties into this. And I hope to put to bed some of those, concerns, if I can, as best as I possibly
can. Yeah, absolutely.
Automation is actually here to reduce some of the errors that we have as part of the human element, right? I mean, there's nothing worse than when you're pushing out large volumes of documentation, etc. And we're all prone to making mistakes. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that it takes the human element out of businesses, right? So how do we move at a rapid pace while still having the human element, etc.? And that's where our automation comes in, right? It's meant to enhance our efficiency in our everyday working lives, right? Reduce operational costs as well, because some of the more redundant tasks can be replaced with automation, right? It also enables us to scale our businesses a little bit faster, right? And I think that one of the key benefits, one of the other panelists had mentioned, was also improving the customer experience, which is absolutely pivotal, right? It's not so much to remove the human element. I'm going to say this again. It's more to enhance our capabilities as with our human intervention, if that makes sense. And by us being able to work more efficiently, it drives our revenue up and enables business expansion. So I hope I've covered that.
No, you have. Thank you.
Okay.
Correct. Same question, Werner. How would you utilize technology to scale? Werner, with us?
Sorry, Stan. I was sparking there.
No problem.
The questions.
I try to give you a heads up.
So I think the scalability component is embedded in the autonomous component of the technology, and obviously the more tasks you can automate, the more you can do with your current capabilities to scale your business. So I think answering it from the previous lens around the risk management component is that there must always be a very clear value proposition for why you are implementing this technology. And if that value proposition is to scale your business with the current capabilities, current resources that you have, then obviously technology becomes a very powerful tool in your arsenal to keep your cost low, but still achieve quite a lot without much effort. So a big one that comes to mind is time value. Time for a business is critical. So the more you can buy your time back, lack of a better word, the better your scalability journey is going to be. And that is what automation and systems and all provide you. But the flip side is also true around the over-reliance on technology. If you don't do it right, if your value proposition is not clear, then it can have the inverse reaction from a scalability perspective, that it actually consumes more time, and now you need to invest more resources to get to the scalability level that you want to be. So I think very, very clear value proposition from the word go, and the question is, how can this technology optimize my time, and how much time will I free up? And by having that time, creates that capability for scaling where you want to go as a business. Thanks, Dan.
Good answer. Thank you so much. I've left probably the most controversial question to last, and we've got a bit of time, so I'm going to run through some of the panelists. We're going to start with Nikita on this one and say, with automation becoming more widespread, where does this leave the workforce? And I think this is the question on a lot of people's minds, especially those in my age category. Are we going to be forced to take early retirement? Is the robot going to be marching into the office tomorrow? What are the implications to the workforce here? And how do we get, and I'm going to ask this within the question, what would your recommendation be as to how to calm these waters? How to explain to the workforce that things are going to change, but you're going to change with the things? I'll start with you, Nikita, please.
Great questions, Dan. So, look, there's back to the previous response that I had, there's a lot of fears, like you said, and people, there's a misconception that it's kind of taking away from our positions in larger corporate companies that are implementing these systems. But the reality is it's here to make our everyday lives a lot better, right? As Werner mentioned, the repetitive tasks that we have on a daily basis, into more, allowing us to be more creative beings, if you want to call it that, rather than just pushing buttons that systems, automated systems can replace, right? So it's not to replace the human element, it's to replace the redundancy, the inefficiencies within our processes on an everyday basis. While there are jobs that may be displaced during this process, the key factor here is reskilling opportunities, upskilling opportunities. So us saying to our workforce that, you know what, while we are getting rid of this area, this is an opportunity for us as a company and for you as an employee, as an example, to learn something new. Here's a system that we're implementing. What do you think about this? How do you feel a robot that's walking into the office can help your everyday life and help our company achieve these key defined growth points, or whether it's revenue or upscaling, like we were mentioning, right? And this is crucial in helping workers transition as well, by creating a sense of inclusion and ensuring that there's involvement with your team. It reduces the fear that's around this transition, right? Rather than making them feel like they're not a part of this growth, we would want to change, manage, and include them in the solution rather than, there's the robot coming. So it has to be a really balanced approach by the companies that are implementing these systems, and it should be driven from enhancing human capability rather than enhancing the robot functionality.
Thank you. You've put my mind at rest. Thank you. Edwin, I know you are a very humane guy. Edwin and I know each other for a while. Give us your message on this, on the workforce. What would your advice be?
Now, let me start. Recently, I read a quote. A lady mentioned, "I want AI to do my washing and cooking, so I've got time for creative stuff. I don't want AI to do my creative stuff, so I've got more time for my cooking and washing." So I think that hit there. that hit it on the nail, because truly, as Nikita says, it should enhance you. It should take away the mundane stuff in what you are doing. That's what you automate, where there's no human failure. But it's like the things, okay, I don't mind a robot coming into the house and do the dishes, but I want to be creative. Yeah, I don't want to take that away, be taken away by AI. But I would say it's the people have to realize it. I mean, we have the technology, we have to embrace it. It's not going to go away, but it's where it hurts, where people don't want to change, because nobody is saying, "Oh, I don't want these smartphones; they are too advanced for me, or they're taking away jobs." Nobody is saying that. But if it comes to the workplace and something is going to be automated, then now we stop, because it could take away our jobs. So, and people have to realize, and there was a report written by the World Economic Forum quite a few years ago that said by 2025, 50% of the workforce needs to be reskilled, because things are changing so fast. And that remains the biggest challenge, that people need to realize the change is inevitable. It's happening. And you have to be on board. And I think even and the challenge for us as more senior is to lead by example. I think we are the most scared ones to go into new technologies.
I agree.
If we don't show, then who's going to follow? So Stan, I'm sorry to say, but you have to embrace it.
Yeah, I will. And I think more than that, I believe that my advice to this particular conundrum would be to leaders in business: embed technology change and transitional and digital transformation into your business culture. In other words, get people to believe and let them come to work knowing that everything is hunky-dory and it's going to be better tomorrow, because we're going to be transforming our business digitally, if you need, or technology-wise. Yeah. William, I'm going to ask you to close us out today. Just what would your message to those people in the audience that have an HR role today? What would that message be from you to them to say, this is what you should be telling your workforce?
Stan, thank you again. I agree with the panelists. The gist of what has been said is that technology is there to enhance the workforce, not to replace it. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be change in the workforce. I think, as Edwin said, there needs to be this shift in mindset to embrace the fact that you as an employee may have to relearn. You may have to unlearn what you already know in order to relearn something new. But if you take this mindset shift, this AI or technology is both changing the quality of what you do. In other words, it's improving the effectiveness and the efficiency, but it's also enhancing the work quality. In other words, the value of what you do. So that's where the upskilling comes in, doing something that's of more value added. And I think that is also something that benefits individuals at a personal level. When they learn something new that adds more value to the environment and to their team, they are benefiting at a psychological level. But I want you to leave one quote on the table. It's a reference to Jeff Bezos and a particular approach to business he takes with Amazon. And that is to focus on, as business leaders, we tend to look at what's changing and trying to chase that and to bring up an answer or a solution to what's changing. But there's a different way of approaching change, and to say what is not changing. What about the way the world does business now is going to be there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And then build your processes around that, because there's always going to be a role to fulfill that process. The technology will change and the way it gets done will change, but the need is going to remain. And that's how you future-proof your organization.
Excellent response. Thank you. I know I opened with you and I closed with you, and I thank you for that. I thank also then we've come to the end of the base. There was a question from Cohen, and I think we have answered it in this discussion, Cohen, in as much as culture change is going to be necessary and how people work in teams and embrace technology. So I do believe we've answered that question. So I'm going to close off now and say thank you to the panel. Thanks to all of you for your time. It's invaluable. I'm sure that there were lessons learned, and you'll see to the audience. Also, thank you. Don't let me forget my manners. Thanks also to Engineering News, the sponsor. You'll see on the screen a Transport Evolution Africa survey. And this survey is obviously to see if you want to attend that 12th edition of the Transport Evolution Africa Forum and Expo. You can do the survey, and or you could go and visit the Transport Evolution website, which is transportevolution.com. All one word, Transport Evolution. Thanks again to everybody involved, and safe travels, and see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure sharing the topic of leveraging automation in transport and logistics. Before we wrap up, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our moderator, Stan Whiting, and our guest speakers, Atul Holkar from PepsiCo Varun Beverages, Nikita Reddy from ESL Freight, Werner Plessis from HybridFuzion, Edwin Briggeman from Briggeman International, Andy Mashaile, a security strategist, and William Butler from Tontrac for an engaging panel discussion. If you're interested in hearing more about the Transport Evolution Africa Forum and Expo, please visit the website at transportevolution.com. And with that, I'd like to bid you all farewell. Thank you very much for your time, and goodbye.